I was like, wow, okay, like this is pretty in your face. I was like, well, maybe I can get into people's faces too.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time in the channel, hit subscribe right now. Reed, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Before we even look at all the good stuff that is coming towards us, congratulations winning Metal Recording of the Year from the YYCMA Music Awards in Calgary. That's a fun way to start the release cycle of the new album.
Yeah, it's absolutely a great honor and stuff, especially within our local community here in Calgary, to be recognized. So we didn't think we would win just because there's a lot of talent here, and we actually know every single band that was nominated, and it's a pretty tight-knit community. So yeah, we're just absolutely happy and honored to win that. So it was good. Yeah.
And the kind of maybe slightly weird thing about that award is that award for the best metal album, Kingsbane, the deluxe edition, is a reissue. A little weird to win an award for a reissue for an album that was released 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's like, we're not that we're ever past our previous release material, because I think, your art, represents who you were at that time, and it's a part of your history. And I'm happy with what was Kingsbane and all that, and part of the process of the reissue. But it was weird. It's weird, especially because I recorded the vocals when I was like 21, and now I'm in my mid to late 20s, and it's kind of weird to be accepting an award with the band with stuff that I feel like I'm not that same guy anymore. So it's kind of weird.
Now let's look ahead, because we're obviously here to talk about Momentous, the upcoming album. And just right off the bat, I mean, I was already well aware of the band before and some of your previous releases, but Momentous, I'm just gonna stroke your ego here, by far the best album you guys have ever made. I've listened to the full album already. I've truly fallen in love with it, and I don't say that to everybody that I interview, I can promise you that. With all what we just talked about, it's great. It's great. Kingsbane got some good, feedback, but it's fair to say that the band is fully focused on what's ahead.
100%. Yeah, I mean, again, it's great to win an award for something that's relatively older, I guess you could say. But this record, really, we feel there's something special about it, and I think we really sunk our teeth into what really makes this band tick and what really is the sound of Osyron. So I think overall it's an exciting time for us, because I think that with Foundations and now leading into Momentous, this is truly Osyron, and this is kind of the birth of our sound and who we are. So that's why we're excited to release this to the world.
From a themes perspective, it's a bit of a restart. We've seen the band tackle, macro issues before, and on the Foundations EP you just mentioned, delve into Canadian history as well. On this album, a lot more introspective, a lot more focused on the individual, people's experiences. Is that a right way of interpreting it?
Yeah, I'd say so, for sure. I mean, definitely influenced by a lot of the global stuff that's happened over the last 2 or 3 years, from various points of view. I mean, not just the pandemic, but many things. But yeah, I mean, if there's anything that can be said about being locked in a house, or kind of having to change your life for 2.5 years, I think almost everyone on the planet had to kind of look more into ourselves and be more introspective to varying degrees. So I would say that's true. I'd say that it's very introspective and very personal.
One of the singles, Beyond the Sun, clearly dealing with mental health issues. Was this because of the themes that you guys talk about, a more difficult album to make?
Well, I guess as a collective, it had its challenges here and there, just because we'd be, locked down, and then we couldn't record, and then things would be open again, and then you'd be trying to record what you can and get it all booked in, and then back and forth. And I know for me personally, I took a long time doing some vocals, just different reasons, but it was a very challenging process for me personally, both mentally and physically. And I think for the whole band, I think it was just kind of a weird process, just throughout the whole year, just writing, demoing, recording. It was just a whirlwind, and we finally got it done. And yeah, it's just happy to finally release it and get it out there. So
yeah, and not picking in on what you just say, for you it was challenging from a vocal perspective. I think you also pushed yourself more on this record. We hear you explore a lot of different styles, and I think it came out really well. I think your vocals is one of the really good parts of this album. Throughout this process, is there something that really surprised you that you learned about yourself when trying all these different approaches?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to be more of a, to quote STU BLOCK, who's a phenomenal vocalist, I always wanted to be a hybrid vocalist. I always wanted to be, someone that wasn't just pigeonholed into one specific genre or specific style. So that was always a goal of mine, and I've dabbled with that throughout my career. But I think I pushed myself to see where I could go vocally. But I think the thing that maybe surprised me, or I guess what you're alluding to, I think was there have been a few people that have listened to this album and have said that they can hear the emotion or the pain or the frustration in certain moments of what I've sung. And I think that's the goal for me, is because it's one thing to be able to sing something to various styles or range or whatever you call it, but to portray emotion and to portray the feeling of what you're trying to convey in your art and in your song, I think that's something that I hope I achieved on this. And if some other people have said that and seen that, then that's the most surprising for me, because I think that's a big step personally for me, and I think for the band as well, to convey those emotions and the themes and the stories of the songs.
From a lyrical perspective, there are still we see ancient gods come by and other larger concepts, if you will, but should we then really look at those as metaphors?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a proponent of I will write lyrics based on what it means to me and in that moment, but if people want to delve deeper and see if there's something underlying there, then I think that they should, and they shouldn't hold back. They shouldn't, because it's I think the song you're alluding to is the first track on the record.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that one, obviously, being cooped up in my house for some time, and probably doing more drinking than I would have liked to have done. I delved into a lot of different topics and history and theories and whatever, and the concept of ancient religions and extraterrestrial stuff. Not to get too into it or whatever, but just the concept of we've been taught as a society, or we've been told, I guess, as a society, to kind of more or less function a certain way or think a certain way for a long, long time. Because it's just true. Whoever has won each war, or whoever has conquered who, kind of lays down their own beliefs or lays down their own way of doing things. And it's been like that for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So I think it's more dealing with on that song, just as an example, the broader aspect of we shouldn't be so closed-minded and only focus in on what we've been told, because regardless if you believe it or not, or if you want to continue believing it or not, is that we should see where we've been. We should see what has been lost. We should just enjoy some stories and some history for the sake of other human beings thousands of years ago. We're writing this and being a part of this, and I think that is part of our history. That is part of being human. It's more than just you right now on this one speck of dust in this timeline, this continuum. It's all of us. It's everyone that's ever been on Earth and everyone who ever will be on Earth. So that's kind of, I think, the broader look at that song.
Okay, cool. Now that song, to stay with that, opens pretty ferociously, and we see, just like the lyrical themes kind of like ebb and flow throughout the album, the music does as well, which we should expect from a prog or a prog power band, or whatever you want to define it. The music is quite varied, and especially when people just look at the album and they expect to hear a cover by Fleetwood Mac when they see Landslide, they're in for a surprise, let's say, with that song in particular. Like you're channeling all of a sudden, or at least at the beginning of that song, like almost a straightforward metalcore sounds as well. It's a bit of a different song than the rest. Like where did the inspiration for that come from?
Yeah, so Landslide, to take the lyrical aspect out of it, musically, Bobby, one of the guitarists in the band, wanted to have just a straight, like, forward, in-your-face, fast, aggressive song. We don't typically do a lot of that. We have heavy elements, we have low end, and we don't hold back. But in regards to kind of in-your-face, aggressive, faster kind of rhythms and riffs, we've never really kind of experimented with that. To this extent, anyway, on Landslide, which is not a Fleetwood Mac song. It is definitely one of our own. I like
people will know when they hear it.
Oh, for sure. They've never heard Fleetwood Mac like this before, but yeah, I think like that's where it started. And then from my end, vocally, I was like, wow, okay, like this is pretty in your face. I was like, well, maybe I can get into people's faces too. So I think that's kind of like, I think the band takes charge on what we're feeling, what we're trying to portray. I'll feed off of that. The guitars will feed off of that. And everyone it kind of manifests into what is Landslide, which is one of our most aggressive songs we've ever written, if not the most aggressive song we've written. So it was a cool process. It was challenging, but it turned out how it turned out. So.
Other songs that I also thought were very strong. We already mentioned Beyond the Sun, but what is Sorrow and Extinction, I think, which different songs. I grew up being a big Ayreon fan. Anything that Ayreon Lucassen does, I kind of feel some of his influence there. I don't know if there's any fans of him in the band, but for those more proggy songs, what would you say are the bands that have influenced you as you've been, growing up as a musician?
I'm a weird in the middle. Like, I originally kind of lean towards bands that have really expressive and unique singers. So I started off with the Iron Maidens, the Judas Priests. Then I went into some new metal or to some more kind of different 2000s metalcore. And then I branched off into more kind of weirder styles like STU BLOCK from Into Eternity or Benji Webb from Dub War and Skindred. Vocalists pushing themselves to completely different places. But I'm also a rock and roller. Like, I love a lot of rock. I love Chris Cornell. And I love a lot of the grunge and rock and roll. So I think for me, it's just like I try to just exemplify how I'm feeling at the moment of that time. And if it comes out more rock and roll, it comes out more rock and roll. If it comes out more metal, it comes out more metal.
And now, overall, like obviously the album as we're talking is not out yet, but you've released some singles. Feedback on that singles has been pretty good. You just won this award. You're working with you're surrounded by a team of very professional, very top quality people when it comes to actually making the album and now promoting the album as well. At the same time, you're right now an indie band. You're not with a specific label. Looking at the momentum that's picking up, I mean, I can only imagine that a lot of labels are currently very interested in talking to you. Is that now that you've tasted both worlds already? You've worked with labels in the past. Is there like a consensus within the band that we want to try to do this a little bit more independently owned, or given the momentum of the band, signing to a larger label than before, is that in the works?
You know what? I think, we have a goal and we have a vision as a band of where we want to be and what we want to look like and how we want to represent ourselves, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think any decision or anything that comes our way, any decision we do will be influenced by that. So if a label comes across that sees the same vision that we see and wants to help us get there, then maybe it's a no-brainer, we do that. But if there is no label that sees where we're wanting to go, then maybe we don't go with a label. I think that's the thing of any successful entity or whatever, is just, you have a goal, you have a vision, and you will do what you need to do and make the decisions you need to make to get to that end point. So I think we're up for anything as long as it gets us to where we want to go.
We obviously hope to see you play well beyond Calgary, and I think that this album is going to open a lot of doors for you in that way. So all the fans watching this video, in the next coming months, what should they keep their eyes open for?
Definitely Canadian dates, 110%. Especially before the end of this year, this calendar year. So that is first and foremost, and that's already in the works, and that's already going to be happening. So Canadians, we will be hopefully coming to your city and or town. If not at the end of this year, then hopefully beginning of next year. And then the goal is to get into the States and get over across the pond to Europe. That is 2023 for us. So just keeping a lookout, and that's our goal. That's part of that vision. Is we're happy to be Canadian. We're proud to be Canadian for the things that we do appreciate, the things that we do respect about our country and our culture, and accept the things that aren't perfect, and accept the things that we know that need to change. We wear that badge proudly, but we want to see the world, and we know that our music is heard around the world, and we want to get to those places because we do have support. We do have people that have supported us for a long time, and we owe it to them to get out there, because it's just not fair, especially over the last 3 years with all the bullshit and all the crap that's happened in the world. I think people deserve to see the people and the things they want to see. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, Reid, thank you so much for your time today to answer some of these questions. I am really, really stoked for everybody to hear the album, because I genuinely think this is a very, very strong album, and I think a lot of people will really, really relate to it. And then, I just hope to see you on those stages sooner rather than later. Thank you so much for your time today, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's fantastic, and I appreciate all the good questions and knowing your shit. And I appreciate it. So thank you.
You You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.